Hello, smart people. How are you today? I've been noticing a pattern lately about double edged swords when the thing that makes you really successful in one field actually bites you in the bottom in another. And I find that with high achievers, you can actually high achieve yourself into oblivion. So, for example, you are probably already a business owner, which puts you in this really rare category of humans who have seen a gap in the market and have actually done something about it. So, you've taken action, you've built something real, you've definitely had a lot of setbacks. So, you're very responsible, you're very driven, you're very capable. And these qualities make you really excellent at what you do. But they can also wreck your journey as a tech founder. And if you're not a business owner, but you are really, really good at your job and you're hyper responsible, let's say you're managing a business unit, these traps also apply to you. Here's pattern number one: I can do hard things. This is a great strength in business, but sometimes it can bite you in the butt. I know you can do hard things. So can I. But that doesn't mean that we should. In the immortal words of Chris Rock, you can drive with your feet if you want to, but that don't make it a good idea. So let me tell you a story about a former student of mine, and let's just call the student John. So John already runs a successful consultancy. John knows his market, he has contacts, he's got real insight. And when he was building this consultancy, he saw a gap in the market for a very specific tech product that could really fill a need. And not only fill a need, but actually make money because it's in a pretty lucrative industry. So he basically had this fantastic idea for a tech tool. And John is not afraid of hard work. So when he had this idea, this is before he came across Tech for Non-Techies, but he was doing some research and he heard about no-code tools and he discovered Bubble. And he thought, okay, well, basically it says that I can just build everything myself. So I'm going to build my product on Bubble and then I'm going to show it to people and we'll basically take it from there. And if you've never tried Bubble, like now it's getting a bit easier because it has AI tools, but before AI tools, it was made for non-technical people, but there really was a learning curve. It was less of a learning curve than learning coding, but it was still a pretty steep learning curve. So he climbed up that curve. He learned Bubble. He spent weeks on it and he was creating his product. And in the meantime, he actually had a business to run. He had clients, he had a team, he also has a family. Like he has things to do. He's a busy man. And so by the time he came across Tech for Non-Techies and we had a chat, this guy was exhausted, understandably. And he was also kind of annoyed when I basically told him, look, just dump this, like stop doing what you're doing. You're going down the wrong path. And what is the right path instead? I mean, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you will know the right path is to build a test product as quickly as possible. It doesn't need to contain any code. It's literally just a test that you create. You can do that using AI. You can, if you have the right guidance, if you have the right prompts, if you know something about user experience design, you can actually create this test product in less than half a day. And this is what we teach people to do in our Tech for Non-Technical Founders program. With that, you take it to your target market, you run some tests, and you basically figure out, do people want this? If they were to use it, what would need to change? Would they pay for it? And like once you get those insights, then you can move on to building with either no-code tools or usually actually you end up working with proper developers. Anyway, my point is, the solution that I gave John is really simple, very easy to do, not time consuming, and is either cheap or free because a lot of these AI tools, there's a really good free tier. And it is completely the opposite of what he was doing. He was like sweating into this tool. And so just because you can do hard things, it doesn't mean that you should. And if you have built this habit of pushing yourself and doing difficult things and overcoming yourself, your default can be to just do hard things without questioning whether you actually need to. because sometimes the easy path is the correct path. So sometimes the cheap, easy way is the right way. So my advice to you, if you're identifying with John's story, don't default to working hard just because you can, because often, especially with this experimentation, when you're first getting your idea off the ground, working really hard on creating something that isn't proven is not a good idea. Okay, here's pattern 3 that could bite you in the bum. Hire good people and get out of their way. Again, it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do with the developers when I hire them? Well, I'll tell you. So delegation is what we all need to do as business leaders. We all have to do it. We can't do everything ourselves. But delegation in tech without product leadership makes you fail. I'll give you an example. In traditional business, great delegation means great leadership because, for example, you hire an accountant and you let them do their job. You are not going to go and get an accounting qualification. You are not going to check every single cell. Yes, once you get the final accounts, you kind of go through it and you see if there are mistakes and there are errors, but you don't, sit over their shoulder saying like, what are you doing? It's the same if you're hiring a lawyer or you're hiring a team, you're not micromanaging them. And with developers, you definitely can't micromanage them because as a non-technical founder, you don't know what they're doing. However, you have to be the leader of the product. Developers are not accountants, but they need direction for what the product is going to be. And if you get out of their way too much and you let go of that product vision, essentially they're going to build their vision, not your vision. And I know this because unfortunately, I have done this. So I remember in my first company, when we actually had the product and we had the users and we had traction, it was getting really exciting. And also we were getting quite a lot of press and investors were interested in it. It was like really, really cool. It felt really cool. And essentially I was really busy because the only person who could do the investor and press stuff, it was me. And so at the time, we had a bunch of feedback from our users because we were constantly doing user interviews about what to improve. And we basically had all of this feedback. And we had a product team meeting where I basically said, okay, this is the feedback. Based on that feedback, these are the next features that we need to prioritize because this is what people really want. And I kind of gave this fairly rough outline. And then I left them to it because I was busy running around being, busy and important. And so when the next version of our app came out, I was honestly looking at it and thinking, what is this? Like, who did this? Why is this happening? Because it was nothing like I had expected. And then I got on a call with our product team and I was like, guys, what is this? And they basically said, well, this was the feedback. This is how you explained it. So this is what we did. So yes, there was some of that vision that I told them about, but really it was more their vision. And it wasn't their fault. If I'm not providing them what we should be doing, if I'm not providing them the vision, they're just going to basically make it up as they go along. That it was basically either that or do nothing. Doing nothing they knew was not an option. So what we ended up doing was actually scrapping what they did and then going back to square one and creating the new version from scratch, which obviously really annoyed them, but also just financially, it was a waste of money because creating that version, it didn't lead to anything. We needed to completely scrap it. Like I still had to pay the developers, right? Like I wasn't going to pay, I wasn't not going to pay them because I didn't lead them properly. So yes, you are not going to be writing code, but you cannot delegate the vision of the product because your job is to be the product leader and their job is to basically make that vision come true. Because you can outsource coding, but you cannot outsource the understanding of your customers and the understanding of your industry and essentially what you are building. And again, if you're thinking, okay, this sounds good in theory, but it's very theoretical. I don't understand what product leadership is. This is basically the skill set that we teach you inside Tech for Non-Technical Founders, because we do not believe that you need to learn to code. We believe that you need to understand how to lead your product team, how to work with them in a way that is productive for both of you, how to hire the right people, how to estimate budgets. For that, we say that you need to learn to speak tech. So speak the language of technology, understand the jargon, understand the tech terms, understand how to set targets. So that's speaking tech. It is not the same as doing tech, which is basically trying to do everything yourself, which is definitely a terrible idea.